Finally, we're at the third part of this very brief overview trilogy. So we've looked at the opposition and why there is opposition in this reality of duality. Again, can look at ourselves for some of these answers. We're discussed and described as being souls. Well, yeah, but it's duality. We're on two souls on our feet on earth. But we are soul, and as in the singular sense. Although we contain divine masculine, divine feminine, we contain the creator in the pineal gland. We have the heart. We have the place of the sun. It's all in one. This is the thing. I think it's fair to say that this particle solid reality is going to be a copy, because the world is a stage. It's all about illusion. It's all about portraying something that is, because it is not. ISIS. Also, look at just the word ISIS. Well, the eye with the twin serpent, you're looking at it. That's what this reality is. It's a huge stage with some very bad actors. There's not that many of them. Sun and Moon Family Channel. Look at the videos that Karen has showed where you can see, and it's put about so much on social media that with CGI they can superimpose a different face and put another voice, and it looks all real on a green screen. But that's all in this external, and it's all on a screen. Don't forget that. I mean, it could be argued that if this reality is just a copy in a particle form of something else, the Elohim, the seven continents, it's all formed. We've got 7 energy chakras. There's always a spiritual equivalent. And this realm is all about keeping you looking at that external, that minute 0.0001%, but the waveform is the 99.9%. There's so much more. The quantum potential it's described of what wonders are we capable of, and we are capable of wonders. Imaginal acts, subjective acts, see the word acts, become physical facts. Don't write that off. This realm is all about separation. It's all about dividing. It follows the same pattern as the tree of life. One cell divides into 2. So now you've got religion, you've got atheism, you've got male, you've got female, then you've got nations, then you've got states within nations, states of mind. They just reuse the same terms over and over again. There is no nation except imagination. We were created in the imagination of the Creator. The perfect analogy to this is, think of the architect with the idea that becomes a blueprint, which becomes a physical tower block, for example. Everything is an idea. I mean, where do the ideas for these videos come from? Some of them is observing the external. Some of it is remembering. When you're a small child, you don't feel the cold. Your intent, your imagination denies this reality, and you don't feel the cold. It is only from the system programming of being told you're not going out unless you put gloves and a hat and a scarf on and a coat, and you're going to get cold. It imprints that into us. Look at nature. Look at how many animals still forage in the winter, and they've still got their fur. They've still got fur on in the summer. Nature will allow for that variation. But those of you that are complaining about so many dog hairs, just think how central heating affects the biology of a dog. Well, you're going out into the cold. The instruction from that the dog is taking is to grow more fur. Now you bring the dog into a central heating environment, an unnatural environment. That body of that dog is saying, lose the fur. So hence you get all the fur. With any animal with fur will molt. I mean, I do it. My hair gets everywhere. Some of you that have met me know. You'll find it in your gardens and things. It does, and it just acts like a serpent. It just winds around and imprints things. I leave an impression. But think also, I think it's fair to say, the idea, like in horror films, of ghosts and haunted houses, and then you get the real life attractions. Well, that is showing you something there. One, a spirit has impregnated and planted an energy into that specific place. Now people go for the thrill or the experience. They're putting their energy and they're feeding that idea. That's exactly how everything in this reality works. Did you know there's a pandemic? Says the media. Which creates, it's all about man is the creator in the most restricted form, and this is what this reality is still doing. It's following that same nature. It is constricting your DNA. It is changing the chemical processes of the body. Now, to my mind, and the way I see it, that you have the genie rations, the generations of man that carry on while we make these mistakes and we're trapped in this physical reality, until you break that cycle and start using your imagination, which the system is doing everything to take away. Again, look how many children have what is known as imaginary friends. Children see things that adults don't. They have a very different way of looking at things. Something worth just observing. Just stand back and observe and think, what's going on here with this? What's going on here with that? See it for what it is. I mean, I like actually the idea of these physical buildings having energy of ancestors and making it feel more homely, which is fine if it's done in an open and honest way, but not in a deceptive way. Going back to the bricks and mortar, mortar, it's a French word for death, and referencing this thing we think of as Tartaria. But it's also the same way with blood, the way it separates. It will resemble cement and blood red brick. And it's said that a building, after 100 years, the spirit will give out a scream out of that, and some people hear it. It's the same as these photographs of auras. In the right spectrum, or with the right senses, think how much more we could sense and see with the mind's eye. I mean, I can't say this and expect you to think this is 100% fact or truth. I can only give you my experience of this. Those of you that are familiar with the Harry Potter films, those black sort of shadowy things that come down and try and steal energy, well, that I have seen sort of malevolent entities in my mind's eye. That's how they have appeared, whether that is the form, but they're sort of vaguely humanoid and very shadowy. And that's something from personal experience I can say I've seen, but it's outside of the five senses. There are those of you that are particularly in tune and empathic. You can feel things anyway. But also think about how it's described. The negative feelings, and it's like hell is described as being below, and at the most base level, the red chakra associated with fire and hell. The sickening feelings, like I said, it makes you feel sick to the pit of your stomach. Then you've got the level with the heart. You've got the sun, the intuition, the gut feeling. Then you've got the heart. Then you've got the mind. Look at all the different levels just in that. Light photons will react differently depending on whether they are observed or not. Now think about the potential of what that is saying. And I'll give you a real, genuine, proven example of this. I think it was 1,000 people all got together with the intent and a meditation to bring the crime rate down in a specific area of New York, and that is exactly what they did. Overnight, the crime rate went down by 25%. The potential of what we can do, how we can change this reality, it doesn't actually need to be that many. It's subjective as to when does the spirit come into the physical body. I would suggest at the moment of that first gasp of air, when the physical body is reanimated, because once that umbilical cord is cut, that oxygen, that food supply, that life support to that baby is instantly cut. So we've all experienced death. That's the greatest illusion. Again, I can give you a personal testimony to this, not once but twice, that it feels like the ultimate, most blissful, restful sleep you could imagine. It's a doorway. It's all about cutting ties. You see, this realm is all about, and you hear it in everyday language when people describe themselves, when they're introducing themselves. I'm this, I work in that job, my interests are in, I don't know, golf or whatever, or football, and so on and so on. But it's not telling you anything about that spirit. It's telling you about this external being and the ideas that it thinks that we think we are, which we're not. We are co-creators. We have this thing called imagination. I think it's fair to say that if you look at all this perceived evil, it's described so often as being repeat scripts, and you can see it. You watch one film, you watch another film, you'll see the same script. Different theatre, different actors, different stage set, but it's still giving you the same message. I could read the Bible, or I could look at Star Wars or Wizard of Oz and many, many more, the Matrix film. They're all showing you the same thing. But it's all about distraction. It follows that same pattern of divide and conquer. We're about bringing ourselves... See, they've twisted it and called it... Because they're doing everything unnatural, so they're creating a thing called the transgender. We're trying to bring ourselves back as one, within one as well, because it's getting that communication between conscious and subconscious or unconscious. That dialogue... And then that dialogue. So you've, again, see the cross there. You've got the two hemispheres. So there's your horizontal line. You've also got your pineal gland and the heart. So you've got a cardinal cross inside you. You've got all the zodiac signs inside you. The two souls. Souls are fish as well. Two souls represents Pisces, and that's where it starts, and you arise in Aries. You're not just your birth sign. This is expressed in so many ways, but it is all about mastering oneself, creating order out of chaos. Well, the chaos is presented everywhere you look, except in here. This is all you have to do, is get the internal in harmony, and then in harmony with everyone in your soul family. Think of the flower life pattern as a perfect analogy here, because you've got circles, you've got petals, they all overlap, they all interconnect. They are separate, but they are also not separate at the same time. Because remember, this is all in duality. But basically, it's like whatever is shown to you at the screen, however horrific it looks, just take the attitude of, so what? I just how we got to here? 14 minutes, 15 minutes. I want to give mention to Dream Universe channel, and Christine has experienced the same things I experienced. That, and this is discussed in the Anastasia books about how this secret priesthood of eight just basically kept knowledge to themselves and created an AI monster. And it does seem that way when you go to make videos or you have these higher spiritual thoughts, that the AI somehow detects an energy, because we're now talking in the wave dimension, the 99.9%. But if we can't sense it, does it mean it's not real any more than Wi-Fi signals, radio waves, magnetics, energies are all around us? Doesn't mean they're not real because we can't detect them. Can we see in the infrared spectrum or the ultraviolet, for example? Doesn't mean it's not there. It's just if we have the eyes to see it, which is in some of this technology. There's nothing wrong with, I agree with what Greg Braden says. It's not the science that's the problem. It's the framework that it is being pushed to fit into, and the same with everything else. It's wrapping new ideas around preconceived notions and old-fashioned dogmas that belong to the Piscean age. It's breaking out of that. It's all about what repentance is. It's changing the state of mind, changing it from one of fear to changing it to one of unconditional love, getting to the heart of the matter. And again, Greg Braden shows this, that the cellular structure of the heart proves that it has a brain of its own separate from this brain, which in spiritual terms, and I think in astrological terms and much else, religious terms in scriptures, all is telling you the same story. The Sistine Chapel painting, the hand of God reaching out to the hand of man, is in a pineal gland. You've got a pine cone representing the pineal gland. In the Vatican is laid out on an astrological grid. They're looking up, and like I said before, they're watching how many people get a particular feeling when they go out in sunlight, how many people are affected by the moon. There's no denying the magnetics of this, but the knowledge has been hidden from us. It is basically a game of life in this reality, which is actually death, because everything will go back into the ground and be pulled down and then come back up again. It's wheels within wheels, Ezekiel's wheels has been shown. And we're pulled this way, we're pulled that way, we're being pulled that way and that way. So we really are in the crossfire. All we've got to do is realise that we are here and here. But we are in one, and we are part of one. We are co-creators. We've just forgotten how to act like it. I'll give you an amusing sort of analogy, saying how standards have dropped. Just look at Market Street, San Francisco, after the fire and earthquake. How, despite all the ash, dust or powder, where everything's such an intense heat, that you come out in your best dressed clothes with your stiffened white collars and things, but now people just come out covered in dust. What is the world coming to? It's just look at the body stance of those people. Look at the body language of people as well. Do they hold themselves upright? Are they acting like the Creator? Are they thinking like the Creator? And you can tell that by their actions, if they don't match the words or do match the words. But if you want the total, absolute truth, whatever the thought is, you know it's the truth when it is your highest thought. That will only come about from going within, knowing yourself. And there's a trinity here. It's know thyself. Know your friends. Because you want to be aware. So you don't want to be If one of your friends says, don't talk about that subject, it makes me sick to the pit of my stomach even talking about it, well, I don't want to implant images, and I respect their wishes and won't talk about that. So there's awareness as an explanation of that. Now, there's also know thy enemy. So if you know the mindset of these piss-poor actors on their theatre stages, it puts it in a different perspective, a different context. It's all about, in that saying, see it for what it really is. Well, this is what I'm going with, that if all is a tomb, we're being held we're all prisoners here of our own device, it says in the Hotel California. Big clue given to us, I think, there as well. It is all shown, little hints all the time. We've just got to be able to tune in, and that it's not that person or this person or I've got the truth. It's ideas. Where do those ideas come from? Ideas are imagination. I mean, I could argue it and say, well, all these songs, well, why do these songs have messages in them? Because they're all started with ideas, regardless of who wrote them. They're ideas. Well, where do ideas come from? Everything started with a thought. Anything that is created started as a thought somewhere, regardless of whether you want to give it a label or not. I choose to say that we are fractalized parts of a whole, and we have the same abilities and the same potential, but we have to spiritually grow to be responsible, because to have that ability of creativity must come with responsibility. Otherwise you break that first law, that natural law of do no harm to anything or anyone else. That seems to be the simplest message, but also the hardest to describe in many ways, but because there are so many ways to describe it. And think again, it's all come from the external, and the external has this tree that follows a cell pattern of dividing, offering you different ideas just to confuse. It's a giant game of Cluedo. C, L, energy, U, die organically. This is telling you, to me, from those words, this giant game of Cluedo, well, it is a who, doesn't it? Well, who is the answer? World Health Organization, because we're never going to know who, because they hide behind many masks. It's suffice to say we can just call them who. And think Doctor Who is a Time Lord. What are we governed by in this reality? How many ways are there to explain this? So yes, a new prefix, it's the answer to everything is you are the I am. You are a co-creator. That's how we start looking for the way out. The way out is all within. It is from a position of unconditional love and having awareness. There's no point fighting fire with fire, fighting particle with particle, when you can draw on 99.9% of thought wave and energy wave and spiritual wave. We're the ones with all the power. They're the actors that are masters of illusion. That's the easiest way to see this. And just look at everything that is shown to you, and what is the message? It's a film, so it's not real, but it's got added realism to make it look real. But it is all acting, it's all a theatre that is displayed around us. You want the answers? They're all inside. It's just observe, because then it's telling you to go. All the truth-seeking topics are all the same. They're telling you everything is a lie. So if you can't find it externally, then there's only one place to look, and it's that saying. It's always the last place you think to look, because our thinking is being system programmed to take us away from natural thinking, how we would think, like as if we were a child, if we haven't got a system imposed mindset with a way of doing things that is unnatural. So I think that sums that up. So who knows where we'll go from here, but it will be going more inward and focusing on the practical steps to change this reality into, to create. If we're co-creators, let's create something worthwhile. Ta-ta for now.